Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to our beloved lecturer Dr. Rizwana binti Mat Yusof and all of my classmates. Today we are going to present our seminar 2, which brings the topic of measuring economic and social impact of organizational activities. Without further ado, let me introduce all of our group members. Our group consists of 4 members, which are Muhammad HAZZIQ, Muhammad SYAKIRIN, AHMAD SYAFEEQ, and me myself, Muhammad AFIQ. Firstly, let me explain about economic impact. What is economic impact? The economic impact is a financial effect that an event, activities, project, or policy of an organization has on an entity. The entity could be a person, a neighborhood, a city, an industry, or an entire country. There are typically 3 key types of economic impacts, which is direct economic impact, indirect economic impact, and induced economic impact. Direct economic impacts would be the employment and income generated directly from a project or activity. Now, let's look at the example from the figure here. Firstly, let's focus on the left side of the slide. A health center purchased medical device from a local medical supply store. So this purchase is a direct economic impact of the health center operation. Next is indirect economic impact. The indirect impact would include the employment and income generated through secondary source. The medical supply store purchases paper from an office supply store to print receipts and hires a local delivery service to transport the medical device. So these purchases are indirect economic impact of the health center operation. And last one is induced impact, which is the spending that is a result of income generated from direct and indirect economic impacts. As local industry grow and household income increases, the employees of the healthcare, the employees from the medical supply store, office supply store, and delivery service, they spend their salaries in the community. So these purchases are induced economic impacts because they are the result of a ripple effect through the entire community. Now I will explain about how to measure the economic impact. The economic impact is typically measured using 4 metrics. The first one is by looking at the jobs or employment. In this part, we can compute the value of jobs created as a result of a certain project. Aside from that, we also need to figure out how many employments or jobs that might be lost as a result of those projects. Some projects will have both positive and negative job effects. For example, building a new restaurant may result in the creation of 50 new employment. However, taking business away from an existing restaurant may force them to lay off 15 people. So basically, if the employment rate is increasing, we can say that the current organization activities are in a good performance. The second one is by looking at the household earnings, or in simple words, the employee wages. So a rise in job number does not always mean that a company contributes positively to the economy as a whole if they are paying less than the average household earnings. If, on the other hand, the project boosts the area's average pay, then it will bring a positive influence on household earnings and give positive economic impact. The third one is by measuring from the economic output. This may also be referred to as business revenue for the companies who provide products or services for a certain project. For example, the economic output includes all supplies, labor, and services required to complete a project. Thus, it will bring positive economic impacts on those who supply the items. And lastly, the fourth one is regional value added. We may define regional value added as the total benefit to the population. For example, if a company built a new hospital in a city where none previously existed, there would be value added in terms of more convenient healthcare. That's all from me. Now I'll pass to the next presenter.
Thank you, AFIQ, for the brief explanation on what is economic impact, types of economic impact, and how to measure it. I am Ahmad Shafiq. Allow me to continue this presentation to tell you more about economic impact. On this slide, I will give the explanation of the economic impact of tourism industry. As we all know and are aware, the tourism industry in every country in the world has generated substantial economic benefits to neither host country nor tourist home countries. It has become the fastest and largest growing industry in Malaysia with the support from the government in transforming the economic transformation program to a service-based economy. This massive economic development, however, brings along the positive and negative impacts. On the left green box is the positive impact, while the right box in red is the negative impact. Let me explain on the positive impact first. The first positive impact is the foreign exchange. With the increase in the number of tourists visiting a country, tourism has become one of the top 5 export categories where it becomes the main source of foreign exchange earnings for at least 38% of countries. According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, a total of 13.7 billion ringgit was gained from the tourism industry in 2019, where the main component of inbound tourist expenditure comes from shopping 34.4%, accommodation 23.1%, and transportation 17.5%, excluding the domestic tourism expenditure. The second positive impact is the infrastructure development. Tourism becomes the economic agent responsible for developing infrastructure, where the chances created by the tourism industry gives the opportunity for businesses all around the world to run their business. For example, the increase in the number of hotels at the tourist attraction locations can be seen from time to time. According to a research by AHMAD, there is a drastic increase in the number of hotels in Malaysia from 2017 to 2019, where in 2017, there are 4,512 hotels, 2018 4,750 hotels, and 2019 5,382 hotels due to the growth of tourism industry. Now we move to the red box, which is the negative impact. The first negative impact is the increase in price. There will be an increase in the demand of basic services and goods from the tourists that will cause price hikes that indirectly going to affect domestic tourists whose incomes are not increasing proportionately. For example, the prices of food served at a hotel is considered very costly for the local tourists, where it is considered cheap by the tourists due to the higher value of their currency compared to Malaysian ringgit. The second negative impact is the economic dependence of local community on tourism, where when there is diversification in an economy of a country, it shows a sign of a healthy economy. But in a situation when a country becomes independent for its economic survival upon just one industry, it will cause a major stress towards the industry, as well as the entities involved in the industry to maintain a good performance. That is all for the economic impact on tourism. Let us proceed to the next slide. On this slide, I will tell you about the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic. In 2019, the world was faced with one of the worst pandemic, COVID-19. It has impacted society in many ways, especially the health as well as economies. Due to the lockdown, various industries such as manufacturing have experienced the most severe financial health to the point where they need to shut down. The cash flow of organizations is very low, which leads to poor revenue growth in the economy. Here, I would like to give a brief explanation on the positive impact and negative impact of COVID-19. The first one is the positive impact. The rise of e-hailing industry. Since the lockdown has been enforced across the country, the service, mainly food delivery, has experienced an outrageous demand from time to time, as people cannot go outside freely by themselves to avoid spreading the pandemic. While the other industries are having a bad time, the e-hailing industry continuously grows as many organizations such as Grab and Foodpanda see this as their opportunity to expand this industry. The second positive impact is the positive trend in the global market for medical devices industry. During the pandemic COVID-19, the demand for the medical devices industry has been greatly increasing to support the needs for society. For example, rubber gloves, hand sanitizer, and face masks has become one of the essential needs for an individual as a law was enforced by the government, especially in the use of face masks. For instance, Malaysia is the world's largest producer and leading exporter of rubber gloves that is contributing 63% of global supply. Now, we move to the red box, which is the negative impact. The first negative impact is the increase in the unemployment rate. Since many businesses in Malaysia have to minimize the cost to maintain their operation during a pandemic, one of the ways is to reduce the employees, which lead to the rise in the unemployment rate in Malaysia. Based on the statistics of Malaysia unemployment rate, in 2019, the unemployment rate is 3.3%, while in 2020 it decreases to 3.2%. However, there is continuous increase in the unemployment rate. Until May 2020, it reached 5.3%. This had proved that there is a negative trend in the labour demand. For the second negative impact is the foreign exchange rate. One of the fundamental rules in a country's level of trade has to be the foreign exchange rates. In March 2019, the exchange rate was RM 4.08 for $1 and it will decrease to RM 4.26 in July 2020. This shows that the Malaysian ringgit value is decreasing, which is not good for the country's economic health. When the value decreases, economic issues such as cost-push inflation will rise due to the increase in the cost of imported raw materials. That is all about economic impact. Now, we move to this slide which tells about what is social impact. Social impact can be stated as any positive or significant changes that can address or solve the social injustice and challenges that are happening in society. Any organizations or businesses can help make these changes through deliberate and conscious activities or efforts in their administrations and operations, which can provide the impacts to the society, especially to their customer in different capacities. Now, I pass to HAZZIQ to explain more on social impact. Thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum, I'm HAZZIQ and I'll be the next presenter. After hearing the definition of social impact that Shafiq has explained, so we might wonder what is the element in measuring this social impact, right? So based on logic models, it typically have 5 critical elements which input, activities or we call as a process, output, outcome and impacts. So let me explain each of these terms. First is input. Input is include both the resources that are available and considering that an organization face. Second one is activities. Activities are what the organization does with the input and the step to be taken to achieve the desired impact. Next one is output. It is represented the direct result of the organization activities. Next term is outcome. It is the intermediate effect on the target population that are necessary to achieve the desired impact goals. They may include the systematic and fundamental progress on meeting social objectives. And the last one is impact. Impact is the ultimate goals of a social purpose organization. So all of these terms has a relationship between each other. These 5 elements describe the sequences of activities that are expected to create the change and desired result. In other words, it describes how the plan work in the input and activities is expected to lead the intended result in the output, outcome and impacts. So let's look at the example on how we apply this element in measuring social impact. As for the first term, input, as I said just now, it is the resource that are available, right? So for this illustration, we may look at the property and rental sector. So there is one setup company that has everything: business management, funding, properties and so on. So all of these we call as their input for their company. Next, the activities. What the company does with their input that they have. From this illustration, we can see that this company has provided a selected single parent family with a 3 years leasing agreement. Next is the output of the activities. We can see that there's a number of 130 family household of single parent benefit with this program, and there's also 40 individual of landlord benefit from this program. As an outcome, the rental tailored to family which rank in a range of 5k to 7k per month. And the tenant also receive a training and skill upgrade to allow career and social mobility. And from those elements, finally it gives an impact, especially to those who rent that property. From those elements, finally it gives an impact, especially to those who rent that property, such as integrated new immigrant to society, create the full facilities and securities to society. Okay, that is how the elements of measuring social impact was applied in organization. Now, let's look at the next important thing that I want to share to you guys. So now, everyone know the basics about social impact. Of course, right now, this information that you got leave you with a question on how to measure social impact in a company and use it for the benefit of the organization. So here's the step-by-step guide for measuring social impact effectively. The first step is start with a realistic reformation model. Reformation model is the first thing an organization needs to work on to bring the social impact into a clear perspective. This model should include the company's goal and objective regarding one or multiple social issues it intends to tackle. Once an organization has devised a proper reformation plan or theory of change to tackle social issues through their activities, it is time for the next step. Now, the company has to choose which social impact metric they should work with to bring the desired results. Companies can either choose their set of metrics from social impact program provider or simply decide to work on the important one to their ultimate goal. Usually these are the ones that have the broadest reach to their target impact and define their success rates correctly in the respective field. After a company succeeds in formulating a comprehensive theory of change and identifying its salient performance indicators, the next crucial step is to collect data accordingly. The process through which companies collect and analyze their data plays a vital role in improving their social impact program in the future. The correlation of data will help conclude in which group the policies serve better, and this way, the organization can also choose to maintain the policy for certain impact groups and devise new strategies to target other impact groups in the future. As for the step 4, after a company has collected data on the specified performance indicators, they should have all the relevant information and evaluate the result for use. A basic framework to review social impact data include listing out the key event and achievement, specifying the improvement and new strategies introduced in the reporting period, the input metric used, and maybe something that related. Next step is a crucial aspect for how to measure social impact is to present it effectively to the masses. A company needs to create and publish a comprehensive impact report which include the company mission regarding social impact. It should also cover the quantitative internal and external data about its effect on target communities. And to maintain transparency, it is good to include both negative and positive outcome in the impact report. Finally, step 6. Claim your social impact. After they have complete and accurate social impact report, they can use their measurement to claim their social impact rightfully. So, that's all for the steps to measure the social impacts. So, I will pass to Syakirin to the next point.
Thank you, HAZZIQ, for your presentation just now. I am SYAKIRIN bin RATAL will continue to explain further on the pros and cons of social impact. The first pros of social impact is have better understand and target your social work. Social impact assessment help organizations to plan better, implement more effectively, and successfully bring initiative to scale. Next, attracting investor and retaining investor confidence. If social investment is to become as important as financial return, the measurement of social impact must be comparably easy to understand and communicate. Then, tendering for public sector contract or selling goods and services, social enterprises must be able to advertise their business in a way that is quickly and easily intelligible to public service commissioner and consumer alike. In this slide, we will take a look at the cons of we ignore the social impact. Firstly, global warming will become uncontrollable. This will result in ice in the Arctic melt and the sea level will also increase. The impact from this is that a few big cities in the world will sink and will under the sea. Next, wildlife losing their habitat. If we continue not taking action against illegal logging activities, polluting rivers with unfiltered chemical, it will cause our wildlife losing their habitat. When our wildlife cannot survive, the world will face food crisis, the supply of food will be decreased and become limited. Hunger problem will be a main problem in the future. Now I will continue my presentation with the example of social impact. Firstly, let me introduce the Sustainable Development Goals, or we all known as SDG. SDG is the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It was adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015. It provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet for now and into the future. As for now, many organizations, including business organizations, support SDG and write it in sustainability report. For example, we have Share, JSL System Berhad, Delight, and etc. Here are 17 goals of SDG. For example, we have no poverty, zero hunger, quality education, gender equality, and many more. Now we will take a look at GHL that has implemented SDG in the organization. First, they have implemented SDG 8 where the goals are decent work and economic growth. GHL had established labor and human rights and the gender diversity policy. Companies also prepare guidelines and measures for flexible work arrangement. Next, SDG 13. Where the goals are climate action, JSL has made a transition to cloud computing to reduce operational carbon footprint. They also install office solar panels for renewable energy generation. Last but not least, SDG 16, where the goals are peace, justice, and strong institutions. JSL adopted numerous ethic and integrity policies such as anti-money laundering policy, anti-bribery and corruption policy, and whistleblowing policy. Here we will discuss the importance of economic and social impact. First is to sustain in business orientation. Companies will show their stakeholder that their activities benefit the economies and society in which they operate. It also help them better understand if they are fulfilling their commitment and stakeholder expectation. Next, improving the business enabling environment. It is a way for companies to show policymakers how their business activity are contributing to public policy goals. Then, prod- then product and service innovation. It helps company better understand the needs, aspiration, resources, and incentive of their customer. It also enables them develop a new product and services and improve existing offering. In conclusion, the economic and social impact taken by the organization will affect individual, organization, and societies. In order to sustain, all parties need to work together to take care of our Earth and for our future generation. Individual can start first with managing their waste properly and not throw it into the river. As individual, we cannot wait for the government and all companies to action first, then we will follow. Individual also can teach their children the importance of taking care of our environment. The elders also can show a good example to the young generation. We do it not for anyone, but for us itself. However, companies also need to design their business activity that will benefit the environment. Companies should be responsible and not pollute the environment. There are many cases that show that companies are the one who make environmental issue rise. Government also needs to be brave and consistent against the environment issue. They should continuously take action against companies that are irresponsible to the environment. That's all from us. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Thank you.